Good afternoon, world. It's moments past noon in Waxahachie, Texas, deep in the heart of the Lone Star State. Today is September 26th, and this is the fourth episode of the Grit and Good News Show. We're broadcasting live from our Palate second story studio here in downtown Waxahachie in the shadows of the Ellis County Courthouse. I'm your co-host, Jeff Lynch. It gives me great pleasure and honor to introduce our host, your host, my friend, Scott Brooks. Take it, Scott.
Thank you, brother. Hi, everyone. Everyone watching from Instagram, everyone from Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. We're glad you're here.
Simultaneously?
Huh?
Simultaneously?
Simultaneously.
At the same
all
time?
at one time. Yep.
Oh my
And
goodness, we are high
yeah.
tech.
So this is what you call live streaming, and we are doing it. Frankly, as we'll have in a story that we're going to be publishing soon about Grit and Good News, this is Waxahachie's, as far as I know, in terms of being just political and current events talk show, call-in talk show, live call-in talk show. This is the only one in Waxahachie, and I think the first. So we're very happy about that. Very
And
proud of it.
Scott, to interrupt you, I might point out, we are here in Waxahachie, and that's where our advertisers will be from, and that's
Yep.
where a lot of our people are from. But the reason I say good afternoon world is that you never know how far and wide this thing
It's
could spread.
true.
I'm telling you.
There are people that reach out to the sun from all over this country, and sometimes from abroad, particularly in the UK, which is quite interesting. When we've done podcasts before, there were a lot of folks writing in from the UK. Brandon Beavers, the Missy Beavers case. There are people from all over the world interested in that. But this is uh, live from Waxahachie. As Jeff said, we are all about current events. We're all about having fun. We're all about making this a safe place for you. We are about grit and good news, and that's as simple as that. We are excited about the advertisers that we'll be having come on board, and we'll be telling you more about them as we get closer to what we're calling a hard launch. We're almost there. These are our soft launch episodes, which means not very many people know about it, but those that do are watching, and we're grateful for that. So we're excited about all of it. And we will also be having a newsletter called The Grit that will be coming out, a weekly newsletter from Jeff and me that we think you'll really enjoy, that will take this a little bit further and allow you to explore some things that my guess is you haven't seen in the media anywhere. So with that, we have some topics we discuss, and we can get into it. I'm telling you, and we want to hear about what you think as well. So what's on my mind today is what happens. We know this. I'm going to ask you this. Do you think? Do you want to say something first?
No, I was just going to say, I don't see it. Are we still doing our telephone also?
Oh yeah, this is a. Thank you, sir.
We don't have
This
our
is
number up there.
Well, no, we don't see it, but the number's right up here. For all of you watching, the number's on your screen right
Thank you.
above my hand. You can call in. We will take calls live and answer your questions, listen to your comments, take your feedback, whatever. But feel free to call in. We can have some fun that way too. Believe me, we don't want to sit and listen to each other for an hour every Tuesday and Thursday. We want to hear more from you than anything. So call in. It's right there. All right. So the question is, do you think, given all that's happened since July the 13th, which is when Trump was shot in Butler, PA, do you think that Trump is systematically being hunted by foreign and domestic, what I guess you can call terrorists, that are trying to kill him?
Well, without a doubt, on the domestic end, and most likely on the foreign end. And the scariest part of that is the domestic inspired by the foreign. And here in the Dallas world, we've still never really put to bed everything on Lee Harvey Oswald in the killing coming up anniversary
Yeah.
in November. But we do know he had extensive Russian relations, and I'm not smart enough to know in today's world how to connect the dots, but I think the Iranians have made it more than abundantly clear that
Right.
they like him gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's interesting about it is it's hard for me to imagine. It's hard for me to imagine that the two people that have been the wannabe assassins that of all the sophistication in the world, that any foreign force or even domestic force that wants to annihilate Trump, get rid of him, as whatever the word is, but all the fancy words. We had the Secretary of Commerce yesterday in an interview, or Wednesday in or Tuesday in an interview, say she thinks he ought to be extinguished for good. Now, this is after 2 assassination attempts. This lame brain fool of a commerce secretary says
Well,
Trump has to be extinguished for
the,
good.
you're talking about our cabinet member
I'm talking about a cabinet member, Biden's cabinet member.
extinguished.
So whatever word you want to use, it's all semantics. It all means we want Trump to be
That's
killed.
putting out the fire. I don't know.
Yeah. So the question for me, one of the questions is, well, if it's true that he's being hunted, and I would agree that he is, who would have chosen a 20-year-old freak from Butler, Pennsylvania, and then the most recent one in Florida is a guy who now we discover through the media that he's got all kinds of issues and a rap sheet a mile long. And surely that if it were coordinated, that those would not be the hitmen, if you will.
Well, on the other hand, that's kind of like, let's take the flying under the radar type of guys. And
Yeah.
and I thought I'd picked up some stuff at one point about the Pennsylvania one, about that guy making some contact with foreign people, and we know how extensive the contacts were on that Florida loon, and made a couple trips to Ukraine and was big in there. So um I'm thinking, if I'm foreign guys, I'm liking the flying under the radar guys is good fodder
Yeah.
to use.
Yeah, the issue there is that both of those men were on the radar, and the Secret Service, the local police, others didn't really take them serious.
Right.
So they came on to the radar prior, but nothing was really done about it, and then they manifested what should have been addressed months or years ago. It all manifested on a July day,
Yeah.
and well, a couple, 2 or 3, well, however long ago, a couple weeks, I guess. So these guys were really on the radar, except that the radar didn't respond to them. So the idea that our leading candidate, and I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to say this more as we move forward, and I'm going to put myself out there, but I believe this race is not close. I don't believe it's close. I believe the polls, as we talked about on Tuesday, I believe that the polls are a bunch of BS. They're made to say whatever they want to say, and frankly, everybody wants, in the media particularly, want to keep it close, keep it alive. That's why people tune in. But I don't think it's close.
Well, and one of the criticisms that Kamala has had is not being forthcoming on issues, and just being vague about things. I don't. She's heard that criticism enough. I don't think it's changed at all.
No, it hasn't changed at
You
all.
know.
She watches what we watch. She had a statement. I don't want to get off track here, but she had an interview with MSNBC yesterday, and she now has a new word, holistic, and she used holistic 3 times in one sentence. And so, but she sees what we see. So the question I have is, well, if you see what we see, please tell me that you're going to respond the way we respond, and like that's ridiculous. And why doesn't she change it?
Right.
But but so we have the leading candidate, in my view, the leading candidate for the presidency of the United States in 40 or 39 days, being targeted, and I think that targeting is only going to be magnified in the next 39 days. And so what happened? God forbid these guys were successful. What happens to this? And I'm being serious about that. Anyone watching can weigh in. What happens to our country if Donald Trump is, for lack of a better description, the truth is murdered? What happens to America, our political system?
We started a brief conversation about this in your office before I came over. I did just a small amount of research. I did not go deep, but it coincides with the answer that I gave you. I think the election continues with the Democratic candidates for president, vice president on the ballot, and the libertarians and whatever. I don't know that there's anybody else on it, and it continues because the question that I asked Google is, what does the Democratic and Republican Party have a guarantee of having slots on the ballot? And it's not that. It's that each candidate has to do the various requirements for that state to get on
Hmm.
the ballot.
Right.
So at this point, um,
Right.
it's
Hey,
all in.
Sonia. Hey
It's all
there.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So I don't. If Trump were killed, he would still be on. My guess, he would still be on the ballot. And but in addition to that, it would seem to me that this country would be in such a disarray that I think it's possible that the election could be moved. I think that the Republicans would probably.
you think the
Pro-
Democrats in control will let that happen? I don't
No,
think
I
that would
don't think. I
happen.
think it would be. I think a court, some court somewhere would say we got to move these elections. I don't
I
know.
don't think so. No.
But and so, but just from a practical sense, what do we do? What do we do, particularly those of us who are pro Trump? What do we do if our leading candidate and the really what the conservative is? I mean, our whole political party is based on Trump these days. What do we do? Let's see here.
What's this
Let me.
comment? We're
Yeah, let
missing the
me.
beginning of
Here,
it.
I'll go. I'll get it back. Yeah, Sharon says I have said from day one that the competition and certain Secret Service people have turned a blind eye to claim innocence in case an attempt to become successful. At one time, I even said they paid to have it done. A hit, as you might say. It sounds to me what we're reading and seeing corroborates that that it's more sophisticated than what.
And Sharon, that goes with the next thing I was about to say. When I was driving over here today, I heard a little bit of the bipartisan committee, and they're now just getting a little bit of a tidbit of the report. And my question is, go ahead. I lost my train of thought on
Well,
how to say
I'm
this.
my thought is that some the Republicans, and I'm just saying this from a layperson's, we got to do some more researching on this, but from a layperson's standpoint, practical standpoint, it would seem to me that the Republicans would say, wait a minute, time out. Our candidate was assassinated. We got to delay this election. We'll go to court. We'll sue whomever to make that happen, and then see if we can get some time to get our house in order, because because I don't know how you can have election if I just don't know how you have election if the leading candidate for one party is killed. We've never had this issue before. I don't think.
So let's go back to your earlier comment that maybe it would be that he would stay on the ballot even though he's dead. So the ballot has a president and a vice president, and so a vote for a dead president gives you the vice president.
I guess that's we're gonna research this because
Yeah,
it's I honestly I do pray, literally pray that all candidates, Biden, I mean, Biden's not a candidate, but everyone in this is kept safe. There's no
right.
reason for anything like this to happen. But I do think it's obvious that we're at great risk for these things to happen to Trump. And so I pray about that. But I think we need to have a further discussion about what we've discovered is that what would happen. John Kennedy was killed during his term.
Sure.
He was killed in an odd number of years, so we know that he was in his term. Uh, in November of '63, so we didn't face that with Kennedy. We didn't face any
Right.
election issue. But in this case, I think if something's going to happen, that may be the ultimate October surprise.
And back to Sharon's point, all the chitter chatter we've had, well founded, I must say, about lack of enough personnel and type of protection for the president, that goes back to the first assassination. Nothing changed with the second
No,
attempt. I mean,
right?
nothing changed with the second. And I- is it ever going to change?
Yeah,
What's the
there's a
story
hearing on
there?
Capitol Hill today with the Secret Service people, former Secret Service people, who are saying things must change. And it's obvious things got to, you don't have to be real bright to figure that out, but they got to change. We can't just say they got to change and they don't change. They got to change, particularly now that Trump is very active all over the country, and we're down to the 11th hour, as they say. So I want us to be able to share with you all, and I want you all to share back with us what you think. But I think it's important that we know what happens, and so we're going
Yeah,
to look into that.
yeah.
All right. Another comment here. Let me scroll down so we can see it. Doug says, Chat GPT says, after election day, but before inauguration, if the candidate wins the election but is unable to serve due to death or incapacitation, the vice president elect would become the president. That's what you just said. Uh, this
Uh,
would follow the rules of presidential succession. After inauguration, the president is in office and becomes incapacitated or killed. The vice president would immediately assume the role. So you mentioned that. So
I can tell you one thing. I think there'd be a cotton picking outrage. This would backfire.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because I think that people are going, "Oh my gosh, you just think knocking off Trump is going to silence
80
our
million people.
no siree,
Yeah.
no siree." And I think JD wins in the heartbeat. Then
Yeah. Well, I think we just ought to. I don't want to be premonition, nor do I want to
no,
be a forebearer of such
no,
awful thing. But it's worth the discussion. And any of you watching that want to offer your opinions, and maybe in the next show or the show after, we'll talk about it more before we
yeah,
get to the
yeah.
election. All right. So that's that. Again, we are working on our contracts for sponsors that we will be happy and thrilled to share with you and tell you all about once we have them in house and on the dotted line, so to speak. So we will
And
have
we're not going to
those
bury
sponsors.
you with too many commercials.
No,
We
this will be
promise you
a
that.
very limited. Matter of fact, we've put a max on the number of sponsors that we will have in this show. So, and on our newsletter. So they'll be the same in both places. But we're excited about that. So more to come on that. So my column, yesterday, it it's titled,
You might have it handy.
yes, Ellis County Pastors, from My Heart to Yours, in which I, with great prayer, with great sensitivity, with great respect, decided to write and plead with our pastors, of which there are several hundred in the county. There are roughly 100 in Waxahachie alone. So I pleaded with them in this column to get beyond the walls of their church and be in the streets, as it were, reaching the lost. So I've had some people already reach out to me today to say, you're calling out the pastor. They're really positive about it, but essentially you're calling out pastors. I'm really not calling out pastors. I'm saying let's, including me, us, let's get beyond the walls of our church and do what Jesus did, and that is be in the middle of the muck and mire to help people and let them get to know Jesus through those efforts, not to the exclusion of the church and inside the walls, but our focus must be outside the walls. Thoughts?
Well, those thoughts are a little different from what I originally thought you told me was the focus of the article. And when I was reading the article, I think the role for pastors is to be strong in their message in the church, and I think outreaching is great. But I think to ask the pastors to just be out going to different events, I don't think there's much they can do there. I don't think there's a place for them in public events
Mhm.
in town. Did I misinterpret?
No, no, you didn't misinterpret. My feeling is that as much effort and energy as is put into what goes on inside the walls of any church needs to be either matched or restructured so that the emphasis can be on going to where the lost are. The ones in, let's say, my church, most of us in my church, our church, is the that's the saved. Not all. Some are coming in from all the efforts that are put forth, but most of the people in the church are we're preaching to the choir.
Right.
And so my question is, my plea is, let's get beyond that and say, okay, We know by example, has any pastor, and maybe they have, but has any pastor stopped to talk to the panhandling faction that we have in this town? Has Are pastors willing to go down to Getzendanner and find where the homeless population resides or any other place they reside? Are pastors going to nonprofit homes where people are being taken care of but that don't know Jesus? They're often addicts. Pastors go to hospitals. That's
Mm-hmm.
a small
Right.
example, but I'm talking about exactly what Jesus did. Jesus hung out where destitute people were. And I'm not saying that every pastor can do that, but every church structure can lend itself or make itself such that it can do those things. So I start with the pastors; they're the leaders. Wouldn't know who else to plead to, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I can't speak for others. Therefore, by the fruits you will know them.
Yeah,
Matthew and Sharon. Um, I think my pastor is really covered up. I don't know that he has a whole lot of time for that, and maybe that's saying he's got misplaced priorities. But I think maybe what you're talking about needs to be the pastor leading his flock to do these things.
yeah. That I mean, again, it starts with leadership. I've said this to a number of people. I'll say it to anybody that listen, really. But at the end of the day, for me, I, in part of why we started the Sun and why we now do these other things, why we do everything that we do, is I don't want to take the risk that on Judgment Day, God's going to say, "Hey, Scott, let me
Right.
ask you a question. I gave you the opportunity to build these platforms. You built them. Well, what'd you do with them? What'd you do for the kingdom's sake? What'd you do with them?" And I don't want to be, I don't want to have a look on my face like, huh? What did I do with them? Well, I have to think about it. Nor do I want to be able to say, well, I made money. I,
Yeah.
made we had a influence in our community for all sorts of things. I want to be
Sure.
able to say, I used what you gave me for the purposes that you put me on earth for.
Right. One of the great things about Scott's column that I love is 90% of the time he starts out with a quote that is it's a powerful quote and it leads him where he's going to go. And in this case, the quote is, "Could a mariner sit idle if he heard the drowning cry? Could a doctor sit in comfort and just let his patients die? Could a fireman sit idle, let men burn and give no hand? Can you sit at ease in Zion with the world around you damned?"
Yeah, I mean, it's a
It,
poem. I knew you would
yeah,
appreciate that,
and
but it's that is a stark question.
it is a
That is.
start question.
And the last one is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So does any pastor, I think of these pastors, and thank God we don't have any in this city that I know of. But these pastors that are, we talked about it before, with all these airplanes and fancy cars and all that nonsense, they're going to be asked the same question. What did you do with what I gave you? What did you do to to take the message, the gospel?
whatsoever you do
Yeah,
to the least of my people, that you do unto me.
right. So I'm asking Ellis County pastors to agree that they're the lost, the very people that Jesus died for, are outside the walls of the church. And I'm not saying to the pastor, you specifically should do this. I'm just saying, are we set up such that our focus is on the external rather than the internal?
Yeah,
Now, if we spent, let's just say for kicks and giggles, if we spend half as much time we spend on building the set for our church service, which for many churches is like a concert. If we spent half the time on the loss as we do on doing things like that, how many people would we save?
right.
So that's the question, and I value what people are thinking and feeling, and I do not. I wrote in my column, I ended it. by saying this. Um, this is to that end, which is all of what I just said. While I recognize this may not sit well with some in our local Christian community, I write it with heartfelt and authentic respect. I also write it believing that Waxahachie can become a stronger force in ushering God back into the public square. That, after all, is where he belongs. So I told a buddy of mine in Alabama yesterday, I said, if there's going to be a response, it's probably going to be a negative one from people in the church.
Right,
And
right.
I don't particularly, I didn't mean for that to be the case, but I certainly don't like that would be the case.
And so, further research
Yeah.
led me down an interesting path here.
Okay.
And so, do you know anything about this Leonard Ravenhill, who the quote was from?
Yeah.
And,
Anybody I quote,
yeah,
I will have researched.
and he he's making comparisons to the early Christian church,
Right.
and he has written a book called the Book of Acts, which is basically talking about the acts of the disciples, and so I did a little further reading into Acts,
Mhm.
and I found something that it really touched me, because if you bear with me, this is how close we came to not having Christianity.
Mhm.
Okay, Jesus dies on the cross. Okay, Pentecost comes along. Okay, now you got the disciples out preaching the word of Jesus,
Right.
and guess what? The same things happen now to them as happened to Jesus.
Right.
Okay. So then they arrest him. Okay. And then they bring him before the Sanhedrin, and they have their little mock trial.
Yeah.
Okay. And then somebody comes up and he says, "What I suggest, therefore, is that you leave these men alone and let them go. If this enterprise, this movement of theirs, is of human origin, it will break up of its own accord. But if it does, in fact, come from God, you will not only be unable to destroy them, but you might find yourself fighting against God."
Mhm.
Dude,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
His advice was accepted, and they had the apostle called in and gave orders for them to be flogged, and warned them not to speak in the name of Jesus, and released them. And so they left the presence of the Sanhedrin, glad to have had the honor of suffering humiliation for the sake of the name.
Yeah.
That turn of events in history
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
what saved Christianity.
Yeah, it's a good point. Those men
Wow.
could to a person could have said, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be flogged. I didn't sign up to be uh, crucified, beheaded, uh, put in prison, and all those sorts of things. They could have easily said that,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
And then they preached every day in the temple and in private homes, and their proclamation of the good news of Christ was never interrupted.
Right.
So I think that works us back to, let our pastors work hard at the pulpit at preaching the good news and getting the flock out there, because many feet can do more than what any single pastor
Yeah,
can do.
these churches, many of them, not all, some are very small, such that the pastor does it all. But some are big enough that they can
Yeah,
have
yeah,
pastors or uh, departments that are focused
yeah.
on outside. But the point is, we see the society, and we're going to talk about it here in just a minute. We see the decline of society. I mean, it is precipitous, and it is to use another fancy word, it's draconian, severe.
A slippery slope.
It's terrible, and uh, at the same time, Christianity is at its lowest level since 1995, and it's still falling. I don't think you have to be too wise to say there's a direct correlation. Christianity is falling. The indecency of society is getting worse. Those two things are linked. And
Mhm.
and so I'm saying to the pastors, we all going to stand before God. let's all make sure that whatever resources we've been given, that we use to save those who are lost. That's the message. So, anything else you want to add?
Dude, I think we covered the
All right.
waterfront, man.
That's excellent what you brought forth. That's
Thank you.
excellent.
Thank you.
Very good. So thank you for that. All right. So we have a segment called He Said, He Said. Since there's no she in here, we don't have he said, she said. But he said is that Doug and I take the same topic without knowing how the other feels and kind of go from there.
That'd be
What?
Jeff and I.
What did I say?
Doug and
Oh,
I.
I'm sorry. Doug's here. I'm sorry. I do that all the dang time. But Jeff and I really we want to be able to have a discussion that's authentic, so that we don't play into each other what we already know what the other one feels. So in this case, I don't know what Doug feels, but the topic is. I'm sorry, Jeff. What the topic is? You're doing it on purpose. No, I'm not. I'm not, Jeff. The topic is
Jeffrey Michael.
what happened. What's happening in the world today when we now see more and more, not just disgruntled teenagers, 17 or 18-year-olds or 16-year-olds, but now we're seeing kids 10, 12, 13, in that range. I don't know what you call those. They're well, preteens.
Yeah.
So those kids are calling in bomb threats. They're sending out messages on social media saying that they are going to blow up their school, shoot up their school. We're seeing it more and more. And recently, a 10-year-old had done it. The 10-year-old was arrested. The 10-year-old is going to be treated as an adult. 10 years old. At 10 years old, I was just figuring out how to tie my shoes. But we have kids nowadays that are turning into little heathen terrorists. And evidently, I know Sonia says Scott, Jeff, not Doug. She puts up with this all the time. So, but what's happening here? I mean, seriously.
Well, this he said, she said, he said. I got to tell you, when I saw this 15 minutes before the show, I had no idea.
You had it longer than that. Just this is why I call you Doug, because Doug, gets his emails and say, I never got an email, only to discover that he gets like 8 or 10 of the same one. You got that yesterday.
Oh, you
online,
eh,
guys. I have no chance to
Yes.
put myself out.
Mr. Brooks,
You got that yesterday,
yesterday.
didn't he, Sammy?
We all got it yesterday. We did. We
Oh.
did get it yesterday.
I'm not used to checking that email.
But
So
anyway, 15 minutes of thought. What is it?
is that well, the first was it that I was unaware of it, but then I thought about something that was common when I was growing up, and I can honestly say, and I'm always going to speak honestly to you, that I never did this, but when kids used to make the prank calls to like the store,
Yeah.
in the classic one was, do you have Sir Walter Raleigh in a can, which is a famous pipe tobacco?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Well, then let them out, okay?
Yeah.
And then the ones where you would call up, you'd call the airport and say, I need to speak to so and so, and I can't give you any of them because they're also cotton picking filthy, but they're
Yeah.
little puns on dirty
Right.
names.
Yeah, that was the extent of that's about as bad as we got,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
But no, I didn't know this, but I think it kind of speaks of lack of parental control and kids running wild and where's the parents? I'm not saying the parents can be watching you 24/7, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, not exactly. So not only are in this case, the 10-year-old being tried as an adult, we just had the kid, I think Sammy put it up on the screen, the kid at Appalachia, is that how you say it? High school in Georgia, who I believe was 14, shot and killed 2 people, if I recall, shot 4 people in total, killed 2 of them, 14 years old. Then we have other examples, historically, of young people doing really awful things, taking what they're threatening to do and doing it. What's happening, not only are they being tried as an adult, but their parents are being tried. So the kid in Appalachia, his parents are in in jail.
Right.
We had the kid, I think it was in Ohio, who shot up a school last year. His parents are in jail, in prison. This little 10-year-old freak is going to be, his parents are going to find themselves in jail, my guess is. So, and it's on the heels of us talking about churches getting involved in where the sin is. This is incredible stuff.
Sharon's got some choice comments. Can you
Yeah,
take it
let's
to the
see.
top
Let me
there?
get over here. So the difference is that parents have been told don't spank. That's not acceptable. So how many times when we were growing up, if we did something wrong, our parents swatted our behinds? True.
What was the famous expression? Spare the rod and
Yeah. Yeah. Ruin the child or
spoil,
something like that.
spoil the
Spoil a
child.
child.
Spoil the
Yeah.
child.
I mean, I've said in the name of full disclosure, full admission, I have sat in the back of a police car one time in my life. I've never obviously been arrested or anything like that. Sat in the back of it in Corona, California, which is outside of LA. When I was 16 years old, I, whatever you call it, knocked on the door and took off. And then at nighttime.
And you got over it.
And well, what happened is the homeowner.
Ding dong ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So me and my buddies, we did it. Well, I was, I had to goof off in the front yard and make all kinds of comments that we had just done it. Well, the homeowner caught me.
Well, bragging about your crime was a big mistake.
Well, it was a
there.
big mistake.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would be a
hello.
lousy criminal. But
That's what-
I did everything but ditch.
Stay ditched.
But anyway, the story is that dude, the homeowner, got me, and I'm gonna tell you as true as I'm breathing, put something in my back and said, "I'll shoot you." And I knew it wasn't a gun, but he put something in my back, and I'm like, okay, I'll do whatever you want to. Well, he called the police. I sat in the back of a police car. They took me home, and needless to say, my parents weren't happy. But I
Right.
can tell you this: I never ditched, ding donged, or whatever you call it again.
That's what you call
That was the extent of it for me. I mean, we might have thrown eggs at a house from time to time, or TP'd a house.
never,
But
never.
but now we have a society where young people are shooting, making threats to shoot people. Bullying is at an all-time high, and I'm just saying, what is going on? And the idea that these kids, this 10-year-old's going to be, it's not funny. He's going to, if he tried as an adult and convicted, I don't know where they'll put him, but it ain't going to be pleasant. So we got to pay attention to this stuff. And I will tell you that in Waxahachie, there are more threats that go on in these schools that we know about. The school system here is good about controlling that and responding effectively, but we are not immune from it at all. Bad Boy Scott is nothing compared to a 10-year-old making it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Bad boys,
Yeah,
bad boys. No doubt. So something's got to be done. And we'll see what happens. Can you imagine a 10-year-old sitting in the witness chair? Or no, at the defense table? We're tried by a jury of our peers, aren't we? We get a jury.
Yes,
The
yes.
law is we get a jury of our peers. How does a 10-year-old get a jury? Wait, they're not going to put 10-year-old on.
Sonia says, "How can they try a 10-year-old?"
That
as an
they
adult?
are.
That's
They're trying
crazy.
to. You could say the same thing about a 14-year-old in a way. I mean, so if the law is that we are tried by a jury of our peers, that is not true with a 10-year-old. It's not true with a 14-year-old. So I don't know how it's going to work, but something's got to happen. Anyway,
Things all come full circle, and when we do my poem, you will find that this topic ends up getting
in there?
covered in
All
my
right, cool.
poem. And my
That's
poem's called Cry Baby. So how do
Yeah.
you think I'm going to connect those dots? But watch
Well,
out, because I'm going to.
Doug says, I think they can come for the parents. Yes, they can, and they are. And I would too. So I'm with you. All right. We switch gears now, and we're on to rhyme time with poet extraordinaire Jeffrey Lynch.
And where is that? Where is that intro?
Is this for a baseball game, Sammy?
What?
The pitch has already been thrown back to the pitcher, and you swung. The idea, can I give you a hint? the idea is to play that as we go into the segment.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. You know.
There's Sammy Brooks. Here's
It's
the
okay.
pitch.
It's okay. All
Sammy
right.
swings. All right. Let's hear it,
So,
brother.
4 books in the poems in this book. Everything's about something different, except the 4 of them about hockey, one of my passions. And as I was selecting a poem for today, I was trying to remember what made me write this poem. But I know I was thinking about it Sunday at church. There was so much crying of babies in church. And I applaud Father James for not being phased and just letting it happen. And it was so loud and so long. And I say to myself, is that kid sitting in church by himself or has he got parents? I mean, what get up with your kid and
Yeah.
walk out.
Yeah.
And then later things had gotten pretty calm. And it was right after communion time. And this nice family in front of me has this tiny little baby and she's so sweet. I had a little peekaboo action going on with her and she's getting passed and forth between mom and dad and son and daughter, just always looking for another arm to be in. And then she gets a little bit restless in the father's arms and starts just a little bit of crying. And he's sitting down the aisle and he just jumps up and
Takes her out.
takes her out.
Yeah.
And then as she's getting out, now she starts big time crying because she doesn't want to be separated from the
From mom,
family.
yeah.
And guess what? Then a bunch of other kids start crying.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, just sympathetic crying.
I don't know how preachers do it.
Yeah.
I
So,
am so easily distracted by that. I'm sorry, distracted by that.
It's good.
All right, let's hear it.
So it's called Crybabies. And as I like to say, it goes something like this.
Or it sounds like it's maybe about Auburn football players. But anyway, go ahead.
Crying has no native tongue. From a baby's mouth, cries readily will come. More and more it seems each day, it's all tears instead of play. Is it what they are fed or how they were bred? Month of birth or where on earth? Color of skin or the earth's spin? Zodiac sign or prenatal wine? WINE. No, NO. No is what parent. No is parents. No, it is parents that know. I'm sorry. No, it is parents that know. KNOW, but can't say no. NO. They can't stand up to their whining pup. Beyond infant age, tykes still muster their ire. When toddlers don't get their way, their parents then must pay. Children throw a hissy fit and don't care a bit about the ears and range of the oral rampage. The saddest part is if you don't learn when young, you grow up with a nasty tongue.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it is amazing to watch parents let's start with the positive, to really be good at managing their kids and be
Yeah.
respectful of others. It is another thing to watch parents whose kids are hellions and the parents are like oblivious. Yeah. It is like, and everybody else in the church is saying, take that baby out or I'm going to come take the baby out. And these pastors, I don't know how they do it. I mean, I'm easily distracted. How they do it is beyond me.
It's parents that know.
Yeah.
But can't say no.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
yeah, I don't.
they can't stand up to their whining pup.
Yeah.
And if it starts at that age, heaven help that kid. That kid comes out to being no good. Who are you going to blame?
Yeah.
Who are you going to blame?
Yeah, that's a good segue from what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It all starts in the home.
Yeah.
Very good, Jeffrey. And again, we keep saying this. I'll keep saying it for Jeff because he's too humble to say it. But his poems can be made specific to someone in your life, something in your life, to you. They can be put together such that you can frame them and hang on your wall. It's really cool stuff. So we'll be talking more about it as we get closer to the holidays because it's a great gift. And at some point, Jeff will you need to have your rate pricing sheet. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I
Maybe
really,
I need to buy an ad.
yeah, maybe you do. But I think it'll be a fun thing for each of us to, say, okay, Jeff, create one for, my mom or my dad or
Sure.
whatever,
I'll do it.
our
and
dogs.
Give me great pleasure.
Yep.
Give
All
me
right.
great pleasure.
Very good. All right.
Okay. Today in
So,
history.
Yeah, today in history, this is our most. I learned the other day that funnest is a word, but it doesn't mean funnest. It has nothing to do with fun. It's actually bad. Yeah. So, but this is our enjoyable segment of interaction and where I got my butt handed to me on Tuesday. I'm ready to make a rebound. So, it's all
And the
yours.
rules are up. You score 1 if you get it right. You lose a point if you don't get it right. You can pass at any time with no penalty, and passing can be important to keep the big numbers off the card. Bonus is awarded if you hit it on the year, and an arbitrary bonus can be delivered by the quizmaster for identifying a particular person or fact in it. And what else? That's it?
Yep, that's it.
Here we go. Oldest to youngest. We start with oldest to youngest. Here we go. British troops occupied Philadelphia during the American Revolutionary War.
Wait, say that again.
British troops occupied Philadelphia
Oh, yeah.
during the American Revolutionary War. And I know you guys give a lot of Civil War answers over there during the mission.
We're going to go.
But go
That's
ahead.
right.
Here we go. Let's go.
1762. Oh, that's a good answer. I like that answer. I'm gonna go. Wait, 1762. Oh no, I'm going back up to 1870.
Dude, we got to send you to history school.
1746.
1777.
Oh,
Okay. All right. Okay.
I knew it. Well, I
Okay.
didn't know it, obviously, but it had.
Here we go. This is a big jump from oldest to newest here.
Sharon didn't get
okay?
it right either.
Big jump. Here we go. The first ever presidential debate between presidential candidate nominees took place as Democrat John F. Kennedy and Republican. I'm giving you a bonus for
Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon. That's an easy bonus.
Booyah.
Faced off before TV audience from Chicago. When was that debate? What year?
1964. It's that time frame where he financial situation by taking off the whole thing. 1958.
1958.
1960.
60. He was dead in 64. He died in 63 in Dallas.
That's 2 bonuses. Thank you very much. You all got a point.
Yeah. I got the three-way bonus there
Did
also.
you? Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Sharon, she got it. She missed it by 1.
Oh.
Rookie.
1959.
Rookie.
Yeah.
Rookie.
Again, we've had this. Every time we have an Olympic question, I bring this up. What 3 things happen on the same 4-year cycle?
The Olympics,
Yes.
voting,
The presidential election, you mean? There's always voting.
more.
Sammy washes his clothes.
We had this year because it's had all 3 of those things. What else? Olympics, presidential elections. Hello, February 29th is called leap year.
Yeah,
Okay, here we
Good
go.
one.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. For your those 3
No, 3
things
things happen
happen
every.
on a same 4-year cycle.
Okay.
Always. Always. My wife's quick to point out that the summer games come on the alternating 2 of that.
That's right.
They're still on a 4-year cycle.
Yes.
William H. Rehnquist was sworn in as the 16th Chief Justice of the United States, while Antonin Scalia joined the Supreme Court as its 103rd member.
I just got to jump in here real quick and just point Scott out, shaking his head like, "Oh yes, I know exactly."
Well,
where
I
these
know.
people are."
Wow.
No.
Rehnquist-
He
Rehnquist
knew the
and
names.
Scalia.
Yeah.
Scalia.
So in the same
Like, oh, I ate lunch with them.
Yeah.
I feel like
Scalia was a force for conservative principles. He died of a heart attack
yeah.
about 4 years ago.
And Rita looked this up on Rehnquist because he'd been on the court for quite a while. You don't just go on the court and become Chief Justice. And I think she might have said 73. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So they made him the Supreme Court Justice that year and brought on a new justice that same year. And the year was
1980. 1984.
Yeah, 1986.
bonus. And you guys are both right. Within
Cleaning.
knew.
I knew it was in the 80s.
Okay, wow.
Lucky Jack Sharon. 1970.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Is that the answer to the other question?
That's what you were saying, yeah.
No, that's the answer to this. Yeah.
She said leave you.
she said
Yeah.
72.
So she this loser.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I took a pass on this, and I'm glad I did. The Motion Picture Association of America announced it had created a new rating, NC-17, to replace the X rating. Do you remember when there were?
Yeah, there
Okay.
were.
And then they changed that. And what year did they do that? 2006, 2009,
1994.
1990.
Booyah.
You're in the 7-year range.
Kicking butt.
Okay, this is kind of a interesting one, and I did some fun research on it afterwards.
Sharon got it too.
4 men and 4 women in a 2-year stay inside a sealed-off structure in Oracle, Arizona, called Biosphere 2. They emerged from Biosphere 2 on this date in 90.
You just-
Okay. Okay. I cut it off.
did.
Okay. So, okay.
Well,
So, okay. Okay.
we're all
so-
gonna get
so-
it right now.
So we want the year that they went in, and 2 years later they went out. If you got the year that they win, you got the one they got
All right.
out.
What do y'all say?
90. What was the last one?
That's a fair question to ask. The last one was 1990 on the motion picture industry.
1997.
97,
Up a little bit. I'll say 6.
I'm
96.
gonna say 5 so that I get it right.
Okay, yeah, you all got it right. It was 1991. So now, do you
Close.
remember anything about Biosphere? Do you remember anything about it?
Sammy wasn't even born.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Tell them what you remember.
I just remember the attention they got. I don't remember. I don't think I remember what the device or whatever that they went into looked like, but I remember the height and all that
Okay.
stuff.
I guess the answer to that question goes to the name. Well, it was called Biosphere 2. And I'm going, did they do this once before? But they built this just for them. Biosphere 1 is the Earth. Okay. Okay. And because the Earth is a biosphere that has everything you need. But this was an experiment to see what would it be like if you weren't in the Earth. Could we create a biosphere that had food and water and oxygen? And so
That worked
that's
for
why they
2
called
years,
it 2,
right?
and nobody died, and they came
Yeah.
out, when it was done. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Army PFC. What's Army? What does PFC stand for? It's a military rank.
Private first class.
Thank you very much.
Ooh, I
Private
did that
first class.
Biden thing. I did the Biden whisper.
Army PFC Lindy, Lynnndie, Lindy, England, was convicted by a military jury in Fort Hood, Texas, on 6 of 7 counts stemming from the Abu Ghraib prison abuse scandal. That's what I'm asking you, young man. Are you trying to trick me?
It was so good that time.
So in a military trial in Fort Hood, she's convicted of a crime that happened overseas when she was in the military. Okay.
Okay.
Abu Ghraib.
Abu Ghraib. 99, and you got 2002.
98.
2005, you're all within 7. You're still alive.
Yes, that was an awful thing.
All right, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing to get newer.
Sharon lost. Ha ha ha.
President Donald Trump nominated Judge Amy Coney Barrett a former clerk to the late Justice
Anton-
Antoine Scanali.
Oh my God.
Sakali. Sakala.
Say his first name again.
Antonin
Antonin Scalia.
Scalia.
You said Antoine
Finale. He's black for sure.
Antonin Scalia.
So interesting that Antonin gets into two
Yeah.
different ones here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nominated by former clerk
Yeah.
to the Supreme Court to fill the seat left vacant by the death of RBG
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Okay. All right. We're looking for an answer. Come on, kids. 17?
2015.
2020. 2020. It just happened.
2022.
2020.
That's 4 years ago already.
I blew it by saying it. And you weren't
Oh,
listening to
I
me.
wasn't
So
listening, but
I'll teach you.
2022. I thought it was more recent.
Okay, now, bearing in mind oldest to newest.
Is this the last one?
This is the last one, so everybody should get it, and we're just working really on trying to get the bonus. Okay, here we go. The NASA spacecraft DART rammed an asteroid in a dress rehearsal for the day a killer rock menaces the Earth. A dress rehearsal. 21, what do you got? Put your phone down. You're out.
23. 23. 23.
22. I got the bonus. Thank you. 22.
22. What did you say, Sam? 21?
21.
Yeah. Very good.
If we average the bonus.
What were your, yeah.
23.
Oh,
Sorry,
Sharon.
Yeah.
No, she got,
Yeah.
what was it?
22.
Oh,
22.
she meant, yeah. Okay, very good.
All right.
I'm back on my game now. So
You're back on your game.
yeah, I'm
You're
back.
on
So
your
anyway, there you go. That's great and good news for today. We are grateful that you're here. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at noon. Story. I've got a story scheduled for next Wednesday in the Sun about great and good news. We're excited about that. We have our hard launch date coming. So thank you for being here, Jeffrey.
It's a good thing we don't have advertisers now because they'd be paying for a 57-minute show instead of a 60-minute show.
Well, no, their commercials would have taken out the other 3 minutes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Boom, we're on schedule.
Yep.
And let's always remember, don't write a check that you can't cash. Boom.
Yeah.